This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
This is your wallow at your own risk leader fan radio network.
Okay.
And KFAN.com. 1 minute, 56 seconds past 3 o'clock Central Daylight Saving Time. Welcome back. It's a Thursday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a vastly improved Thursday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Louis Park. My name is Dan Barreiro. I host the program Guardsy produces, and we are, I think, once again today going all the way till 6:30. Is that correct?
Unless you want the homies to take an extra half hour for you tonight.
They probably would love that, or not. Are they happy with the niche that they have?
There's plenty of. I'm sure they'd love to stretch out, but we're going until 6:30.
As far as I know, we're going till 6:30 tonight, and we're looking forward to every minute of it with an outstanding array. I would say a cavalcade of distinguished guests. Sam Mitchell is scheduled for 5 o'clock, 5:02. Aaron Gleeman in studio at 4:02, and I'm sure we'll not only talk Twins with him, but we'll also talk plenty of Minnesota Timberwolves. And bonus Jonny Athletic files a live report from Oklahoma City at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. You can reach us at any point today via the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line, unless you've been blocked, 646-86. 646-86. The interesting thing is a lot of people who think they're blocked aren't.
Right.
But me being the Richard I am, when they text to say, am I blocked? Right. I don't respond. So then they assume they're blocked, even though they're not blocked.
Right. We get a lot of those. Should we do like a Roger Erickson school closings bit sometime and just read all the numbers and be like, 763-295-5000, not blocked.
Not blocked.
So, and just for all the people that aren't blocked. If you are blocked, we can't see it.
How about an amnesty where we unblock everybody?
Nope, not interested in that. Not even one bit
I'm not
interested
sure I am either, to be honest with you.
I will also not tell you to unblock people on Twitter. I will also not tell Meat Sauce to unblock people on Twitter.
You're past all that?
Well, it's not my problem.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody's got to make their own decisions.
You did something that made and nor would I expect you if someone comes up to you and say, Guardsy blocked me.
Yeah, what am I like, hey, Guardsy, what's going on there? I'm with you on that. I try to stay out of all of those things for sure. But I am sending out at the start of the program today an urgent request. I am suggesting that if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, be careful about wallowing, because you do so at your own risk.
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean by that, Ricky Rubio, is just about 6 times a day, if you look hard enough, 6 times a day, you can find on the internet an angry video, a rant related to the belief that there's a different set of rules for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the rest of the league is suffering for it. The question isn't whether there's some legitimacy to it. The question is whether wallowing in that and getting whatever sustenance you can out of it. Yeah, that's right. There's another guy. I don't even know his name, but he nailed it. It's ridiculous. You can do it. You can wallow in it if you'd like. But you do it at your own risk. And if the Wolves do it, they will do it at their own peril. And I'm going to believe that Chris Finch gets that and understands that. You are not coming from a position of strength regarding this being the issue to wallow in. When your three most important bench players in the ant colony go, as we talked extensively yesterday, 7 for 36 from the floor. You are not coming at a position from a position of strength and wallowing on SGA. He may be MVP, man, but I don't like anything about him. When you're outscored on points off turnovers in game one, 31-10. You're not coming from a position of strength in wallowing on SGA when your favorite team finishes with exactly 0, which is almost impossible, 0 fast break points. 0. We did not get at least the way they classify fast breaks on the box score, the official NBA box score. We had 0 points on fast break. 0. Outscored 12-0. You are not coming at from a position of strength in the wallowing when your team is outscored in the paint 54-20. You are not coming from a position of strength when only 12 of your 83 shots are at or near the rim. That's 14.5%. And no, I didn't find the percentage. I didn't try to compute it. I'm trusting other people that they got it right. Wolves' average is 32.7. So let's be realistic and logical here. Regarding the whistle, regarding whatever double standard might be out there, can you at least say this about SGA? He breaks people down. He goes to the basket. We can argue about some of the calls he gets and whether he should get them. And I don't think he deserved all the calls he got this last game. But there's always a chance that you have no chance to get a call if you're just jacking up threes. Stubbornly and consistently. How many times are people fouled on 3-point shots? Not that all. It happens, and it's scary when it does, and it hurts teams from time to time, but it's pretty rare. So if you want to even put the officials' whistles in play on your side, you can't play the way the Wolves played in game one. This is not me surrendering. This is not me saying this series is over, because I don't believe it is. But I'm saying here's what has to change. And I refuse to wallow in the... I've seen... Who was a guy... Johnny just retweeted one. Is it Nick somebody?
Oh, Nick Wright? Nick
Wright.
Yeah.
And again, I get it. I get the point. He's not wrong. But there's like 5 of these a day. And I think they actually work against us. Because it makes it much easier to ignore several elephants in the room about the real reason why the Wolves are down 1-0, and that they have to rectify those issues, not reverse them, but at least make themselves more competitive in those areas. And believe me, everything else will look better. Everything else will look better if you make some of those changes. This team is capable of making several of those changes. And I haven't even gotten to what we talked about yesterday regarding the fact that your own defense, not just because of foul trouble, but because you are hanging your heads. The coach said it. We hung our heads because our offense wasn't working in the second half, and we let it affect our defense. Chris Hine, who covers the team, said that's what tends to happen with this club. So all that stuff has to be cleaned up fast for tonight. If it is, things can change. The pressure can be put on the other team. We've seen this before. Now, maybe we'll look back and say, no, there was no answering the bell for the Wolves, and Oklahoma City is that good, or we're not quite as good as we thought we were, and it's 4-game sweep, or they take us in 5 like Dallas took us in 5. I don't know. By the way, did you see the ratings were dismal for game 1?
Right. They were.
So,
you know my theory.
What's that?
Did you see my theory? A lot of people
are disgusted by the SGA whistle.
Well, they tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
They watched him draw 4 ridiculous fouls in the first 4 minutes, and they changed it to something else. Now I'm kind of just doing the bit for the Oklahoma City Thunder fans that have somehow found me after the
have
first.
They found you?
Oh yeah, Thunder Nation's all over me. Not as much as Rosen, I don't think, but yeah, Thunder Nation has their antennas up for anybody mad about the SGA thing. So I'm getting a lot of avatars and a lot of Thunder Boy 6'7s checking into my mentions here. You are right though, and I'll say, and you could be talking just directly to me. I know you're talking to the masses, but I need to listen to this. My theory tonight though too is, number one, they just have to hang in defensively. They have to be better defensively no matter what is happening offensively, no matter what's happening with Shea. They have to be better defensively for the full 48. I do think tonight, early on, because of all the discourse, there will be a little bit of an opening where Shea doesn't get a foul just because he fell down. Like, you have to take advantage of that. He might still get a bunch of calls.
Well, by the way, there were at least 3 drives to the basket in which he did not get a call. In the first half.
You're right.
He didn't get it all every time.
So you have to remember those, and you have to take advantage when maybe you even do get away with a bump or whatever it is. You have to hope that it evens out, and when it evens out, you have to take advantage of it.
Well, and
that's a mentality thing.
Again, it's not SGA's fault that the Wolves shot miserably from 3-point land. It just isn't. I'm sorry. It's concerning because, like I said, I like to believe the team deep down knows that.
I think they do.
Even if the fans are because here's the dilemma for fans, I'm afraid. It's too painful to think of the alternative, which is, well, they are better than we thought, and we're not quite as good as we thought. That's what this is all about. But that's no fun. That's a terrible acknowledgement to have to come to. And, I mean, here's a good example of sort of the mentality that sort of it misses to the point, or misses the point, shall I say? It goes to the basket. He goes to the basket because he gets the whistle. Wolves are shooting threes because OKC has an aggressive defense that doesn't get called for fouls. Watch the tape, 612 guy. We didn't go to the basket that much. Period. End of story. It may well be the worst thing that happened was that Julius Randle was hot as hell from 3, almost historically hot in the first half. And what do you start doing? You start falling in love with that. Oh, that's kind of fun. Now it says, I want to get in on that. I'm a streaky 3-point shooter, right? Edwards didn't really even take that many, I don't recall, but DiVincenzo did. It's SGA's fault that Dante DiVincenzo throughout most of this postseason has been awful from 3 points. I mean, you have to be, as hard as it is, I know it's hard, be rational about it. And I'm here to tell you that the key to turning this thing around 2 games in, to having a good chance to even this series and make people think about it very differently than they're thinking about it right now, is playing better. And a lot of that is offense. And if you think there were constant efforts to drive the basket and people were mauling our slashers, you didn't watch the same game I did. We settled way too much. We basically complied with what we allowed them to dictate, which was, we're going to put up the wall and we're going to let you fling the threes. We'll take a shot. You're a regular season, you're a very good 3-point shooting team, but postseason you haven't been. And we're going to, if we got to give up something, we're willing to take that risk.
Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. You can enter the keyword money at KFAN.com. That's your shot at winning. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword money.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Please spare me the aesthetic thing. This is the other. This doesn't have anything to do with whether it helped the Wolves or hurt the Wolves. I just can't watch it. Give me a break. Stop it. You're invested emotionally because you got excited about your team. You had every reason to get excited about your team, and you're frustrated right now. But I'd say let the thing play out a little bit. And I venture to say that even if we come out of this second game feeling that the officiating was a little tougher on SGA, that if the Wolves, even this series at 1-1, it's going to have a lot more to do with several of the things that they did a lot better than they did last game. Did we do points off turnovers, that stat? 31-10.
I was going to say we had 10, right?
We got 10 points. They got 31. Those are untenable numbers. And it's why a close first half turned into the disaster of the second half, in which we were, I believe, outscored 70-40. And I'm going to say something that might offend you specifically based on what you've tweeted out. SGA is a very good basketball player. He is. And he's not the first great player to frustrate people with the way he sells and complains and acts like he's been shot. But I guarantee you, if he was playing for your team, you'd bleeping love him.
That's where I disagree.
He's too effective.
That's where I do disagree.
They just won. I think it's the sixth best regular season in the history of the league. He's the best player on that team. Look at his shooting percentages for a guard are unprecedented, other than Michael Jordan, for God's sake. Leaving the free throws out, he is a very good player. And I just don't, I'm sorry, I don't believe you that you'd say you would actually turn him down or say, I can't watch the Wolves anymore because he bugs me.
No, I didn't say that. I would never do that, of course. But it would bother me like it did when Karl Anthony Towns would go flailing into the lane and always asking for calls.
But not enough to turn on him. You never turned on Cat. You defended him more than anything else.
No.
You defended him more than I did.
Not on the officiating stuff.
Okay, yes.
And that's...
But that didn't preclude that he's a great player.
I never said he wasn't a good.
Well, okay.
And same thing with Ant. How many times have we talked about Ant complaining too much, trying to draw the fouls, going into the lane? That stuff bothers me in general. If I strapped you to a polygraph and said that true or false, how would the question have to be asked? You can't do true or false with a polygraph. If SGA played for the Wolves, you would be more bothered by what he does with officials than all of the great things he does that has made him and will make him a perennial MVP candidate. You know the answer to that. The answer is, yeah, I'd have to accept it. He's too good. I'd have to accept it. However, I feel like in my heart of hearts, and because I hate deception. I hate trying to fool the officials.
But it's not unprecedented.
I understand, but I'm saying I hate it. I hate it with everybody. I hate it with Luka. I hate it with Joker. I hate it with Ant. I hate it with Karl. That's fine. I hate all of it, but I would not defend it. I'm not saying I wouldn't cheer for the guy. I'm not saying I wouldn't recognize his greatness. But if somebody
wouldn't spend anywhere near as much time on it, you just wouldn't.
If somebody came at me and said that really bothers me, I go, I get it totally. I don't love it either, but that's part of the SGA package.
Yes, and it's not. I'll say again. If you think that's why the Wolves lost the first game,
and I don't,
you're delusional. Well, there's a lot of people who they're playing it both ways. They're going, no. I just think it's impossible to watch. I again will say, I think that's vastly unfair to a lot of great things he does in the court. The ability he has to separate without fouling, the smoothness with which he gets around and creates space. Are you kidding me? It's tremendous.
He does have good control of the forearm to not extend it just far enough to get an offensive foul.
Yeah, but he's not unprecedented. Michael Jordan did that.
He did on the most famous shot ever.
Yeah, so I just think we're getting so far in the weeds with this, and I don't think people being honest, because I think most of the people texting are frustrated the Wolves are down 1-0. They don't feel good about it. They're worried about it being 2-0. And they're almost girding themselves. Well, I can't even get upset now because we have no chance. We've got no chance against this guy. So, I mean, the people, everybody who votes for him for MVP, they shouldn't, or they should allow the concern about an occasional sneaky play. I mean, Steph Curry sometimes acts like he gets shot when he goes down, but he's still, I would think most people would say, a hell of a basketball player.
Yeah, I wish in my heart of hearts, I wish that this stuff did not exist, because I just don't like it as much. I hated when Rubio came across the pick and roll and acted like he'd been shot in the back, with the head flail. I don't like any of it. Again, it's not turning me off from the game, but
right.
I think I've been pretty consistent on every player. I don't like it. Of course, I'm going to watch. If he was on this team, I'd say, yeah, he's better at this than anybody else. And he's the MVP, and he's leading us to 68.
Yeah. Well,
I don't like it that it fouls Jaden out of the game when I feel like he fouled the guy 3 times.
Right.
Because that hurt. That did hurt the Wolves.
There's no question
even
that
in the
hurt.
second half.
But you'll agree, Jaden is also. I mean,
he's capable of giving up too early.
He's not responsible for Rudy Gobert's 2 fouls early. SGA had nothing to do with that. I just want people to keep their eye on the ball, which is if you're invested in this and you want the Wolves to have the best chance to keep your dream alive in a year where everything did seem possible and should still be possible, then you got to play better, and you obviously have to shoot better. Clearly, if you hit more shots, that's good. But somebody is texting here, kind of missing the point here so dramatically. We're going back to the Golden State game. You made the same argument after Warriors. They actually averaged more attempts in game 2 to 5 than in game 1. Yes, but they're playing. There's about 9 things to say to that, not the least of which they're playing a different team. They're playing a better team than they played either of the first 2 rounds. Simple problem to solve, he says, just make the open ones. It's part of the story, but using the Wolves' own numbers against that chowderhead, the fact is, I just laid it out. This is a team that historically has been very good at getting to the basket. If you want to do the percentages of what the proportion that what we do, 3-pointers to drives to the hoop, we're not even close to what we need to be when we are at our best. So, yeah, you hit 5 more threes, a lot of things would look different. But if you're not hitting the threes, what you have to consider is the possibility of trying to do other things to get there. And like I said, this happened the night of the game. People have become so deranged. There's now such a thing as SGA derangement syndrome, where right after the game, I tweeted out, in Edward Anthony versus SGA, it's SGA in a blowout in game 1, and people lost their minds. Even though it's demonstrably provable, in my view, that it was a blowout. First half, SGA shot miserably. But in the 3rd and 4th quarters, he was a vastly superior player to Edwards. He was much more involved in everything than Anthony Edwards was. And so the idea that because you can't stand the way he goes about his business, no, it can't be about that. Well, no, it was about that. That was part of the story. That doesn't have to be the end of the story. But if one of the series storylines going in is, okay, they got their star, we got our star, let's see how they do. Not necessarily matched up against each other, but who is more influential? And in the second half of game 1, there's no comparison. Whatever you think of the clever shoving or whatever the case may be, but it's like people have become so deranged on this one player who, by the way, just won the MVP award easy.
For the last time. People aren't going to fall for it.
I don't think it's going to be the last time. If let's put it this way. If they keep winning 65 to 70 games a year and he's still the best player on that team, shooting over 50% from the floor, believe me, he'll continue to be in the mix. He's been in the mix already. I'm confused about why you don't see this. I understand your frustration, but the proportion of your frustration to the larger body of work this guy represents and what he did in the second half, he outscored both Randall and Edwards in the second half of the game.
Part of that is because McDaniel was on the bench.
Well,
and Caruso's not on the bench. Williams not on the bench. They foul more than Jaden McDaniels?
Okay. I don't know what
He's a great player, but it is frustrating to watch him flop like a fish constantly when he doesn't need to do that. that is frustrating for people. Of course, it means Dante needs to play better and Naz needs to play better.
Sound like he did it 20 times in the game.
I'm not.
What are you watching? Then we're not watching the same game.
But then there's 28 other fan bases and national people that watch more games than any of us on League Pass that follow through this whole thing.
But you're glomming on to a specific angle that fits your purpose because it articulates your rage. It's not going to win you the series.
I'm not saying
do you want to win the series, or do you want to just, like I said, just campaign to have him thrown out of the league?
We started this whole conversation outlining the ways that the Wolves have to play better themselves.
But I feel like you've forgotten about all that.
Well, no, because we're talking about this, and I'm standing up for people that are a little frustrated by how the whole thing went.
And I'm fine with that, and I'm saying the proportion of rage related to that as opposed to paying attention to those other things is completely out of whack. And if the Wolves are functioning the same way, they'll get swept. They have to do the other things that will give them the best chance to win. You're basically making it sound like it's impossible to beat SGA on the basis of the way he's officiating. That it can't be done. This is a guy who they didn't even get out of the second round last year. Was the officiating different then?
Their role players weren't as good.
I see. That must be.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Man.
It's time for Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic. And he's on the Dan Barreiro right now.
I was about to suggest that maybe Jonny Athletic could break the tie, but I know which way he's going. So the tie probably will indeed be broken regarding the heated debate towards the end of the last segment. Jonny joins us from Dateline, Oklahoma City, brought to you by RBC Wealth Management. The debate got heated.
Is everyone okay there?
No.
Is everyone okay?
Not completely.
I just want to check on thing. Yeah.
I have reached a point where... And I fear, like I said, you're going to be closer to Guardsy's view than mine based on a tweet that you linked to regarding the latest. There's, like I mentioned this earlier, 5 times a day, there's somebody nationally who offers up a 5-minute oral treatise on why Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should be banned from the game and should renounce his MVP award. So given that you did that, and you did the proper, you got the rejoinder out of the asterisk out of the way earlier. I'm not saying this is why they lost. I'm not saying this has anything to do with it. But, and my point is, every time I hear that, I wish people would be more honest, because I think, in all honesty, the but part of that is what they are emphasizing more than, 31-10 points off turnover. Some of the laziest passing we've seen from the Wolves through this postseason run, being outscored 54-20 in the paint. The numbers go on, and it worries me, frankly, because I think there's almost a sort of SGA derangement syndrome setting in that goes well beyond whatever is fair game regarding concern about his ability to attract fouls. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would say. As I said, and this is not sort of placating anybody. I really believe that if the Timberwolves are going to shoot the way they shot from 3, and if they're going to turn the ball over the way that they did in Game 1, they're not going to win this series. It doesn't matter if SGA shoots 100 free throws or no free throws. They have to play better. But the tweet that I kind of quote tweeted and agreed with, and I think that Timberwolves people, players, coaches, and stuff would agree with, is there is certainly a stark difference in the way that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is officiated and the way that the Oklahoma City Thunder are allowed to play defense. And the Timberwolves usually invite physicality. They want that. They want physical defense. They want to be able to beat you up. But I mean, it was pretty clear in game one that he just falls down. Like, that's what he does. And there's a lot of times there's no contact or very minimal contact. And then when you watch Lou Dort and watch Caruso and Wallace and all these guys just body up Ant and Julius Randle or Jokic in the previous round, like, this is a long running kind of debate that has been going on, and it's not just in this series. So here's the thing, though, Dan, and I think that the Timberwolves themselves have taken the right tact. Like Jaden McDaniels has said, we got to stop fouling. Chris Finch has said, we got to have a next play mentality. We can't get caught up in that. Mike Conley even said after game one that he uncharacteristically kind of got too swept up in how the game was being called, and he's got to calm himself down a little bit. It's not going to change. The referees are not going to all of a sudden have an epiphany and watch this guy fall around and then just not fall for it. Like, that's part of Shai's skill level, is tricking them into these things. And so the Wolves have to figure out a way around it. How do they do that? They make more shots and they don't turn the ball over. Like, that's going to be key to what they have to do in game two and going forward here.
So isn't also one of those ways, I mean, you're back to whatever you think of the way you believe this double standard exists, and I guess the conspiracy is wider and more vast than I thought. I'm learning this on the fly, although I feel like I'm hearing a lot more about it now that we're in this series and we're down 1-0 than I did previously, but I'll leave that aside. If the stat that you quoted is accurate, Wolves taking 12 of their 83 shots at the rim, a team that had taken, and that's, I think, 14%. Historically, they take almost 33% of their shots at the rim. You're not even giving the referees the opportunity to, perish the thought, call a foul on those dirty, foul-grabbing Oklahoma City Thunder players when you play the way that the Wolves did this last game. And to me, that's an important piece of this, is that it can't be left out of the discussion. Now, there's some games where we're streaking up, hitting threes that, we can get away with taking 50 and we can still win because we're going to hit 20 or whatever the case may be. But at some point, aren't you going to have to, if you want to, if all you're about is the referendum on the officiating, and that's all you care about, to freely test the officials to be consistent, don't you have to slash the way SGA does? Don't you have to get to the mid-range occasionally? Don't you have to try to find some other ways to go about your business if you want to give yourself a chance for the refs to ignore fouls committed by Oklahoma City?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Thunder in game one made more shots in the paint than the Wolves attempted. Like, that can't happen. Like, that's a recipe for disaster. But one thing we do have to say is one of the brilliant parts of the Oklahoma City defense is that they funnel the ball away from the paint and they invite teams to take corner three-pointers. It's kind of like analytically unsound in some ways because the corner three is such an efficient shot, but that's part of the Thunder game plan. They want to leave that open to kind of lure you into those shots, because a lot of those shots that the Wolves took from outside in game one were really good looks from really good shooters. Nasri, Dante DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker, Conley, like a lot of these guys got great looks and they didn't make them. But because the Thunder packed the paint so heavily, they want to take away Julius Randle's drives. They want to take away Anthony Edwards' drives. And it worked for them. The Wolves got sucked into playing that style. And I do think that it is incumbent upon Edwards and Randle in particular to dictate the rules of engagement more in game two, to go to the basket, go through them, and make something happen. And that doesn't even mean you have to take a shot when you're in there, but when you collapse and you are able to get to that area and collapse the defense, the rhythm of the shots that you're creating on the outside on the kickouts are even better, and we'll have a better chance of going in. So there are certainly schematic and strategic things that the Wolves did wrong that contributed to their failing in game one. I think the emphasis on Shea right now is the Oklahoma City Thunder are getting to a big stage. Everyone is watching now. He just got the MVP award. And, a lot of people are looking at the Thunder for the first time and saying, wait a minute, this isn't exactly ethical. And so that's what's dominating the conversation in that regard.
Yeah.
But clearly, the Wolves have to do so much more in game two than they did in game one.
Yeah.
No question about it.
I think, God, I worry that although the Wolves are saying the right things, that's what that they're wallowing in that victimhood, and then I think they're doomed. I really hope, and I hope I'm wrong, because I picked them to win this series. You picked them to win this series. I don't think the series is lost by any means. It only really takes one game to sort of turn this thing on its head, give them some things to think about. But I hope they're not just mouthing those cliches, because I thought as that game went on, they played, especially the second half, about as poorly as they could play. And it's hard for me to stand tall for them when they're throwing some of the lazy passes that they threw, the nonchalant passes that we saw Naz throw, for example. And I saw, forget just Jaden, I saw the head coach talked about it. I saw everybody hang their head defensively after a very good first half defensively, because their offense was out of sync. And I don't think they put anywhere near the same level of perimeter pressure all really across the board that they did in the first half. And, of course, we haven't even gotten to the turnovers, which, again, maybe you can get away with that more easily against Golden State. But if everybody's, including you and me, I think, said before the series, you can't turn the ball over as often. And what do we turn it over, 17? 19, excuse me. Then it doesn't equate to a victory. That's going to have to change at some point, and we tend to have always been, as good as we are in some ways, sloppy with the ball. I just don't know if that's going to compute, or that has anything to do with what SGA is getting away with.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, and I don't know that there are many sober-minded basketball people who looked at that game and said the Wolves lost because SGA got 14 free throws or whatever it was. I mean, certainly there are fans that are riled up about it and believe that, well, the trickle-down effect, and you have Jaden in foul trouble. And
they're all texting really into me right now. They're all texting into me right now, man. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I would say like that's the emotional part of a fan, and that's fine, but I really do believe in talking to the players and talking to the coaches.
Right.
There is certainly frustration with SGA, no question about it, but they were much more accountable after the game, even than I expected. I mean, this is a team that will let you know when they are upset at the officiating. They will not hide it, and they kind of took their medicine over these last 2 days. I mean, Jaden McDaniels in particular was very stand-up about it. He said, look, I got to find a way to not foul him. Like that's what it is right now. And so, there's just a million things that they do have to do better. I do think, Dan, one of the things I'm going to be watching for tonight is this team. It might be a character flaw, but what they need to get into a series and like feel a team before they figure things out. Mm-hmm. They are not a team that is prepared. You can study OKC, you can practice, you can get ready for it, but until you play them, you don't really realize it. And so I do expect them. I don't expect them to have 10 turnovers tonight, but I do expect them to play with a better rhythm, with more urgency, with more focus, and sharper. And if they don't, that is going to change my perception of where this series is going. But right now, I just looked at game one as the inevitable. The Wolves get punched. They needed a little taste of blood in their mouth. And now they're going to react. And if they don't respond, then they're in real trouble. But if they do, then I think it's going to be an interesting series, and they're going to have every chance to win this thing.
The another stat that I didn't talk much about yesterday, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, was, and again, some of these stats can be misleading and maybe even not all that accurate. But the fast break points one, I think Oklahoma City didn't have a lot. I think it was 12. It was like 12-0. It almost sounds impossible within a game that you would literally not have a single basket credited to a fast break situation. How do we explain that? And what is that a piece of this? Knowing what we know about Oklahoma City's half-court defense, which is awfully good, obviously, is there a way to do this without turning the ball over too much? I mean, is that the hesitation? Well, we don't want to go too fast because we tend to turn the ball over. On the other hand, I feel like you've got to get something going ahead of the other team when it's this kind of defense.
Yeah, they absolutely have to do that. They did it well in the regular season and on a few games, in the games that they won. You have to start with crediting Oklahoma City's defense. They are very frenetic. They get back. They really limit those opportunities. But to your earlier point, Dan, I do think one of the main reasons it was 0 for 6 in transition and 0 points in the fast break was because in the second half, when the shots for the Wolves did not fall and you kept missing and kept missing and kept missing, their defense just disappeared. And the way you get fast break opportunities is to get stops, create turnovers, get defensive rebounds, and get out and go. And they just didn't do that. I think the Thunder shot like 63% in the second half. There was just not many opportunities for them to really, capitalize on. And so one of the big keys tonight for the Wolves is to stay locked in defensively. They were very good defensively in the first half. It was a really, really good half that way. They just couldn't make shots, but they cannot let any lack of success on offense trickle over to the defensive side because they need to expect offense to be hard in this series. Oklahoma City has a great defense, so it's not going to come easy for them. And so they have to lock in defensively and create those opportunities for themselves to get out and run more than they did in game one. Yeah,
I think that's all that makes some sense. Is Rudy part of the solution here? It was a weird game. He gets the 2 early fouls. He actually, if you believe in plus minus, which again I think is you got to be careful on how much to project that stat might mean in a given game. But I think among the minuses, he was one of the lower minuses for the Wolves when he did play.
Yeah, the lowest.
But offensively, It was a train wreck again, where he's getting the ball. A couple times, I think people fed him at the wrong place. Dante had one throw. It's like you can't throw him that pass there. They should know that by now about where he's good getting the ball. But is there a place for him, and how crucial is he in turning this thing around even after one game?
Yeah, to me, they really missed him. So in the second half, Chris Finch, as the game was starting to slip away, went to Naz Reid and Julius Randle front court in an effort to try and get some offense going because Rudy was struggling offensively. And what you saw, a byproduct of that, in addition to Naz being 1 for 11 and really, not helping offensively, but what you saw the most, the biggest effect was that without Rudy on the floor, their defense just fell apart. And so to me, the way for Rudy to impact this series is 2 ways. First of all, he has to dominate the offensive glass. The Thunder are vulnerable in that department. And we saw Randall had 4 offensive rebounds, Naz had 3, but Rudy Gobert had 1. And that's not enough. And when he gets those offensive rebounds, generally speaking, he's better at just a little quick putback right there. You're not asking him to do too much. Tip dunk, grab and put it right back up, score that way, or grab it, kick out, open three-pointer, splash. That's how he is going to affect this series offensively. It's not going to be in pick and roll, in getting a bunch of opportunities in the short roll, things like that. And then if he can stay on the floor with the offensive damage that he does there, then he can affect the game defensively, make things harder on Shea at the rim. And that's the real issue that Rudy has. If he can't rebound and if he can't crash the offensive glass and be effective there, then he is not going to have a place in this series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost at a point where as helpful as it is when he gets into double digits offensively, we've seen that, even if it's just dunks, I'm almost ready to write that off and say, forget it. Literally, don't worry about any. If you end up with 4 points, fine, as long as you stay in the game, continue to anchor the defense. And as you say, if nothing else offensively, you get some stuff going on the offensive boards as well. But I feel like, and my recollection is there was a while in that game, and you can tell me how long it was, where OKC went without both of their big men. Was that an extensive period of time? And does that further force, Finchie to have to ensure that Rudy, or that he's going to keep him off the court?
Yeah, I think they did go without Hartenstein and Holmgren, and I want to say it was 7 minutes. I don't have it right in front of me, but I think it was right around there. It was a decent chunk of the second half, I want to say in the third quarter. But I do think, Dan, that was where Anthony Edwards fell short in game one, was when that happened, when those rim protectors left the floor, he did not attack enough. And I don't know if there was the ankle bothering him a little bit or whatever it was, but he just did not go. And when that happens, whether Rudy's on the floor or not, when they have Kenrich Williams and, Jalen Williams or whoever up front, it's Ant has to go. And he has to get to the rim, and he has to force them out of that small ball 5-out style, because it is hard for Rudy to be on the floor defensively against that 5-out kind of a look. But I really think the onus falls more on Anthony Edwards there, that when that door opens, you better kick it down and get right to the rim over and over again to punish them.
The first half, the offensive story before that hiccup towards the end, obviously, was Randall, who was it 5 3-pointers in the first half? It was a remarkable shooting performance. You can't tell them to turn down the shots because they were open. I mean, but on the other hand, I'm wondering if when you look back in the game, that it maybe made it a little bit too easy for them to go into that. We're just going to shoot over the top of them and never really, even in the first half, get into any kind of real offensive flow or rhythm.
It's possible, Dan. But like you said, everything else was so hard for them that really all they had was the Randall shot. And when that's falling, go with it. I thought the bigger indictment was in the second half. So Randall goes 5 for 6 from 3 in the first half, 6 for 8 from the field. He did not get a shot until there was 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. He didn't get a 3-pointer the rest of the game. And Finch said it after the game that he's got to do a better job of calling things up. But I just thought that the Wolves made it too easy on the Thunder to take away a dominant player in a groove like Julius Randle was. I mean, for him to only get 5 shots in the second half, he was 3 for 5 in the second half. Like, when you talk about a Wolves team that could not buy a basket, Randle is 3 for 5. He should have had 12 shots in the second half. That's just, you got to play the game and the way it's going. And I think the Wolves did a poor job decision-making, kind of identifying what was working and what wasn't, and exploiting that, because Randall should have had another 20 points in the second half. Yeah. And you're in it still. Kind of boosted the offense a little bit.
Johnny, last question regarding getting to the basket. I mentioned yesterday there were a couple of plays I seem to recall in the second half when Randall had the ball at sort of the top of the free throw circle. And I felt like literally there was a wall in front of him at different points during his holding on to the ball. There were not 2, but 3 different guys kind of lunging towards him, trying to kind of, rush him a little bit, blitz him, keep him off balance. So what is it about the OKC defense here that at least in that first game made it seem so impenetrable and what can the Wolves rightly do about that to attempt to loosen it up, to do some slashing on their own?
Yeah, and it wasn't even just 3. Sometimes it was 4 guys in there, Dan, that were just, at each corner of the lane and making sure that there was no room to go. What is allowing the Thunder to do it is they are unconventional in they do not care if they're giving up a corner 3. And most defenses guard that very strongly because it's such an efficient shot and it's such a damaging shot to give up. And what they basically have said is the Wolves' superpower is Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards going to the rim. Even Rudy Gobert crashing and making things happen down there. I think the Wolves had the highest percentage of shots at the rim in the NBA this season. That's how they kind of do a lot of their damage. But they are not fearful of the drive and the kick out to the corner 3 and giving that up. And so, honestly, one of the main things that the Wolves have to do, Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, all of these guys, they have to make those shots and make the Thunder pay. If you hit 4 or 5 of those, you're going to make the Thunder draw out a little bit more, and that's going to open just enough room for Randall and Ant to get to the rim. But, I mean, it's got to start with good shooters making the easiest shot from 3 that there is.
Yeah, I mean, nothing changes all of the discussion better than hitting 4 straight three-pointers, right? I mean, it really can. It loosens things up. It changes things. It relaxes everybody a little bit. That is, as long as then they don't just, to me, fall into the habits of, well, that's the only thing we can do. I mean, to me, ideally, what it does is maybe forces them to spread their defense out a little more as an acknowledgement, and then you do something else, right? Then maybe you get to the basket more, and you mix and you match, even though, I mean, this was a really good three-point shooting team in the regular season, but really the Wolves have not been throughout their postseason run, correct? Percentage-wise.
Yeah, it's certainly been up and down. It's been very streaky. Like the start of the Warriors series was very bad. The Lakers, game 1, they were on fire, and then they kind of tailed off. So you're right. I mean, the biggest issue is that DiVincenzo and Alexander Walker, who both shot a great clip in the regular season and were real viable threats coming off of the bench and boosting the offense that way, have been bad all playoffs. Naz has been up and down. Conley's been up and down. But those two, they rely on so much to kind of boost offense when they come in with the catch and shoot. And they've both been broke. I mean, they were 5 for 21 in game 1, and they've been bad all playoffs. So these guys got to start shooting more like they're capable of shooting, because you're exactly right. When you even saw it in game 1, there was a couple of stretches where they knocked down a few, just 2 or 3, and then they were all of a sudden up 4 or 6. And you think if you can pile onto that and put some doubt in the Thunder's mind, now all of a sudden everything else opens up for you and you can attack. But it's got to start with good shooters shooting the way they're capable of, and not, shooting like the Trevion Grahams of the world that we saw the Wolves trot out there in the Ryan Saunders era.
Are you okay with SGA getting the MVP?
I think Jokic is the best player in the league, but I had no problem with SGA winning it because the Thunder were clearly the best team, 68 wins. Gilgeous-Alexander is very, very important to what they do. I actually think, the Thunder roster is deep and very good, but I actually think sometimes SGA gets penalized for that, and he doesn't really, they don't really need him as much. No, he's the straw that stirs the drink. And so, if I voted, which I don't do intentionally, but if I voted, I'd probably go Jokic 1, SGA 2, but it was so close, and he had an amazing year, so I have no problem with winning it.
I can argue it either way. I'm with you on that. I don't have a problem with SGA winning it at all. I mean, he obviously had better people around him, you could say, more depth around him but you win 60. Didn't they have the greatest margin of victory in the history of the league? Or something close to that.
They killed everyone all season long.
To that extent, did not at all surprise me. All right, thanks. Good luck tonight, man. Be careful. Are OKC fans vile, vicious to opposing media jackals, or are they okay?
Yeah, I haven't been accosted like Brian Windhorst was in New York walking back. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, but, we talked about that.
No, they've been nice. It's very quiet down here. Yeah. There's not a whole lot going on. Game days it livens up a little bit, but the crowd's very loud. It's the loudest crowd visiting that the Wolves have been in these playoffs, but seems fairly well behaved. The fans online are pretty,
that's
onerous, and I just ignore that. But in person, it's been okay.
Have fun tonight. We'll chat if not tomorrow, certainly next week. Thanks as always.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Johnny. That is John Krasinski. We call him Jonny Athletic, brought to you by RBC Wealth Management. Dateline, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Another huge Timberwolves rube, not named Guardsy, is in the house. His name is Aaron Gleeman. We will eventually probably talk some Wolves with him, but there's reason, I think, to, with a straight face, talk Twins these days. And that's who he largely covers on a daily basis. So if you have Twins questions, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686. We'll get into some things that Gleeman has written recently. And as I said, I'm sure we'll mix in some basketball as well, including we've got to get to, for miracle comebacks, I honestly in the history of basketball, I'm not quite sure how you possibly match what took place last night at Madison Square Garden. It was riveting, truly riveting basketball theater. Mr. Gleeman, and then at 5:30, I should say 5 o'clock, right after Gleeman joins, Sam Mitchell, not in studio, but probably on the golf course.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.